You see, we live in a world where money is seen as the ultimate measure of success, the key to freedom, and the thing that defines a person's worth. A woman with no money, what does that mean? Is she impoverished, deprived, or merely free from the trap we've created around wealth? Money is often regarded as the ultimate measure of success, the key to freedom, and the thing that determines a person's worth. It is woven into the fabric of our society to such an extent that we can scarcely imagine a world where it does not hold this power. We are taught from an early age that accumulating wealth is the goal of life, that having money means having control over our circumstances, a sense of security, and an elevated status in the eyes of others. But in this belief lies an illusion, one that distorts our understanding of both the nature of wealth and the meaning of power. Money, in its essence, is a tool. It was created to facilitate the exchange of goods and services, to simplify transactions, and to represent value in a tangible form. However, over time it has come to be seen as something more, something that defines a person, that controls their opportunities, and even their identity. In a world governed by money, those who have more are perceived as more powerful, more capable, and more deserving. We find ourselves caught in a game where financial success is equated with personal worth, where the pursuit of wealth becomes a symbol of a successful life. But here's where the illusion begins. Money, despite its power in the world of exchange, cannot buy happiness, inner peace, or fulfillment. These are intangible, internal qualities that no amount of material wealth can provide. Yet the belief that money is the gateway to these things keeps us trapped in a cycle of acquisition and competition. We believe that once we reach a certain financial threshold, we will be content, that we will be free. But in reality, the more we chase after wealth, the further we drift from the true sources of meaning and satisfaction. Consider the way in which power is tied to money in our society. Power, in its truest sense, is not about control over others or the ability to acquire material goods. It is about influence, autonomy, and the capacity to shape one's own life and experiences. When we equate power with the accumulation of wealth, we forget that real power is something that cannot be bought or hoarded. It is the power to live authentically, to make choices that align with one's true values, and to be free from the expectations and pressures imposed by external forces. A person with immense wealth might be able to wield influence in the traditional sense through the purchase of resources, the creation of opportunities, or the exercise of authority. But this type of power is fragile and dependent on the very system that sustains it. It is external, fleeting, and tied to an illusion. True power, however, is internal and independent of external circumstances. It is the quiet strength of a person who is at peace with themselves, who knows their own worth, and who does not need to accumulate more in order to feel whole. This kind of power cannot be measured in dollars and cents. It is found in the ability to navigate life with wisdom, compassion, and grace. When we begin to see money as the sole source of power, we overlook the other forms of wealth that are far more enduring. Wealth in relationships, in personal growth, in wisdom, and in the ability to live in harmony with the world around us. These are the kinds of wealth that have real and lasting value. A woman with no money may not be able to afford material luxuries, but she might be rich in ways that transcend what money can buy. She may possess the power of community, the freedom to pursue her passions without the constraints of financial obligation, and the ability to create meaning in her life through connection, creativity, and contribution. In this sense, the illusion of money as power keeps us from recognizing our true sources of strength. It keeps us chasing after an external symbol of success when what we really need is to turn inward and cultivate the kind of power that cannot be taken away. The real power lies not in the accumulation of material wealth, but in the ability to live fully, authentically, and with a deep sense of inner contentment. Once we understand this, we begin to see that the pursuit of wealth as the ultimate goal is not only unnecessary, but it also distances us from the life we were truly meant to live. Wealth is a concept that has been tightly bound to material possessions for centuries. In a world driven by consumerism and the constant pursuit of more, we have come to equate wealth with the quantity and quality of the things we own, be it a car, a house, a bank account, or designer clothes. We measure success by the size of a person's possessions and the apparent security they provide. But if we pause and look more deeply, we may find that true wealth lies not in what we own, but in how we live what we value, and how we relate to the world around us. The material world offers us countless ways to accumulate and display wealth. But material possessions are fleeting, they age, they wear down, and they can be lost or stolen. No matter how much we acquire, we are always left wanting more, driven by the illusion that once we have just a little bit more, just a little more money, a little more stuff, a little more status, we will feel complete. Yet we often find that even when we attain what we desire, the satisfaction is temporary. The happiness that material wealth offers is surface level and dependent on external circumstances that are constantly shifting. True wealth, then, is not something that can be accumulated in the way we accumulate possessions. It is not found in the things we have, but in the quality of our lives and in the richness of our experiences. Wealth can be seen in the love we share with others, in the time we devote to our passions, in the depth of our relationships, and in our ability to experience the world with gratitude and mindfulness. These are the things that nourish our souls and give life meaning. They are not bound by the limitations of money, nor can they be measured by any external standard of success. When we begin to redefine wealth beyond materialism, we open ourselves up to a different kind of richness, one that is less about accumulation and more about experience. This wealth is found in the moments we share with loved ones, in the quiet joy of solitude, in the creative expression of our talents, and in the satisfaction that comes from living a life aligned with our deepest values. It is the wealth of being present in the world and finding beauty and abundance in the simplest of things. Wealth, in this sense, is not about having more. It is about recognizing the abundance that already exists within and around us. It is about cultivating an attitude of gratitude for what we have, rather than constantly striving for what we don't. A woman with no money may not have a large home or a fancy car, but she can be richer than many who live in opulence. She may be rich in the friendships she has nurtured, in the sense of purpose she has found in her work or creative pursuits, and in her capacity for joy and connection. These are the true markers of wealth that cannot be taken away by the vicissitudes of life. In redefining wealth, we also come to understand that it is not about ownership, but about presence. The richest moments in life are often those that cannot be owned or possessed. They are fleeting, ephemeral, and intangible. The feeling of walking through a beautiful forest, the connection between two people in an intimate conversation, the joy of creating something meaningful, these experiences cannot be bought, but they are priceless. True wealth is about living in a way that acknowledges the impermanence of material things and treasures the intangible aspects of life that are, in many ways, more enduring. This shift in perspective invites us to ask ourselves, what is it that we truly value? What brings us a sense of fulfillment and richness? It is not the accumulation of wealth for its own sake, but the cultivation of a life that is rich in meaning, in connection, and in authenticity. Wealth is not something external to us, but something that resides within something that grows from how we engage with the world and with others. In a society that places so much emphasis on material success, this redefinition of wealth can be a radical act of liberation. It frees us from the endless cycle of comparison, competition, and accumulation, and allows us to focus on what truly matters. It reminds us that the richest life is not the one with the most possessions, but the one with the most depth, the most love, and the most genuine experience. When we shift our focus from accumulating things to cultivating a life of meaning, we find that we are already wealthier than we ever imagined. In a world that often celebrates individualism, the concept of interdependence can seem like a challenge to our deeply held beliefs about autonomy and self-reliance. We are conditioned to believe that success comes from standing alone, that power and worth are derived from independence, and that to thrive we must be able to control and manage everything within our own sphere. We prize the idea of being self-made, of pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, and of achieving greatness without depending on others. However, this ideal of complete independence is not only unrealistic, but it is also profoundly isolating. To truly thrive, we must embrace the reality that we are deeply interconnected with one another and with the world around us. Interdependence is the understanding that no person is truly an island. We are all shaped by our relationships, our environments, and the support we give and receive from others. No matter how much we may achieve or how far we may go in life, our success, happiness, and well-being are influenced by a network of connections, both seen and unseen. In truth, our ability to survive and thrive is intrinsically linked to the contributions, support, and presence of others. This is a truth that we often forget in a culture that glorifies individual achievement. When we recognize the interconnectedness of all things, we begin to see that we are not isolated beings, but part of a vast and intricate web of life. Our lives are shaped by the people we meet, the communities we build, and the shared experiences that bind us together. The woman with no money, for example, may appear to be lacking in material wealth, but in reality she might be rich in the ways that truly matter. She might be surrounded by a community of friends, family, and loved ones who provide her with emotional support, love, and care. These relationships are invaluable and form the foundation of a life that is fulfilling and meaningful. The wealth of interdependence cannot be measured in dollars and cents. It is found in the intangible bonds that connect us. When we embrace interdependence, we also recognize that we do not live in a vacuum. The choices we make affect others, just as the choices of others affect us. In an interconnected world, our actions ripple out, touching the lives of those around us in ways we may never fully understand. Our well-being is not just an individual matter, it is a collective one. When one person thrives, it benefits the whole community. When one person suffers, the entire network feels the impact. This understanding invites us to approach life with greater empathy, compassion, and care for one another. Interdependence also challenges the notion that we must always be strong and self-sufficient. In a world that often celebrates independence as a virtue, we may feel ashamed to admit our vulnerability or ask for help. However, vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a natural part of being human. By opening ourselves up to others, we invite the possibility of support, understanding, and connection. Asking for help is not a sign of failure, it is a recognition that we cannot and need not do everything on our own. Embracing interdependence means acknowledging that we are all in this together, and that our lives are richer and more meaningful when we share them with others. Furthermore, interdependence encourages us to let go of the illusion that we can control everything. Life is full of uncertainties, and no matter how hard we try, we cannot always dictate the course of events. When we accept the reality of interdependence, we let go of the need for total control and allow ourselves to trust in the process of life and in the people around us. We come to understand that we are not alone in facing the challenges of life, and that there is wisdom, strength, and resilience to be found in our relationships. In embracing interdependence, we also come to appreciate the gifts that others bring to our lives. Each person, with their unique experiences, perspectives, and talents, contributes something valuable to the whole. The woman with no money may not have wealth in material terms, but she may have wisdom, creativity, and insight that enrich the lives of those around her. In this sense, true wealth is not a matter of accumulating material resources, but of recognizing and appreciating the richness that comes from our connections with others. As we embrace interdependence, we begin to understand that our true strength lies not in our independence, but in our relationships. We are not separate entities striving to achieve success on our own. We are part of a larger whole, and our lives are shaped by the support, love, and care we give and receive. In this recognition, we find a deeper sense of fulfillment and meaning, as we realize that we are not alone on this journey. The interconnectedness of all things offers us a profound sense of belonging and a greater capacity for compassion, cooperation, and love. The present moment is the only moment we truly have, yet it is the one we often overlook. We live in a world that is constantly focused on what comes next, on the future. We are trained to chase goals, achieve success, and plan for what lies ahead. The past is also a heavy influence as we replay old memories, dwell on past mistakes, or long for days gone by. In this constant cycle of anticipation and regret, we miss the beauty and richness of the now. Living in the present moment, fully and without distraction, is not just an act of mindfulness, it is the key to experiencing life as it was meant to be lived. When we think about time, it is easy to get lost in the linearity of it. We often see our lives as a series of steps leading towards some distant point in the future and achievement, a milestone or a goal that will bring us happiness. But in doing so, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to experience the fullness of life in the present. The present moment is all we ever truly have. It is where life happens, where we breathe, feel, and experience everything in its raw, unfiltered form. The future is always an abstraction, and the past is already gone. Yet we invest so much of our energy into what is not here, and now that we miss the profound simplicity of simply being. Living in the present moment means letting go of the need to control the future. It is about releasing the constant mental chatter that tells us to plan, to worry, to project into the next hour, day, or year. When we let go of the need to predict what will happen next, we open ourselves to the full experience of what is happening right now. This is not to say that planning or thinking ahead is wrong. It is a necessary part of navigating life. But when we become obsessed with what is coming, we disconnect from the richness of the present. The moment we are in right now is fleeting, and the more we focus on it, the more we discover its endless depth. In the present moment, we find an inherent sense of peace. The constant noise of what was or what will be fades away when we are fully immersed in the now. There is a profound stillness that comes when we let go of the mental clutter that distracts us from the beauty around us. A woman with no money, for instance, may not have the external markers of success that many strive for, but if she can learn to embrace the present moment, she may find a kind of peace and contentment that wealth cannot provide. In the now, there are no expectations, no past failures, and no future anxieties. There is only what is, and that is enough. Living in the present moment also invites us to cultivate gratitude. It is easy to overlook the small wonders of life when we are consumed with what comes next. Yet, if we pause and truly see the world around us, we discover a wealth of beauty in the simplest things: a smile from a stranger, the warmth of the sun on our skin, the taste of food, or the sound of birds singing in the morning. These are the things that make life rich and full. But we cannot appreciate them if we are constantly rushing toward the future or clinging to the past. The present is where the gifts of life are waiting to be noticed. When we live in the present, we also cultivate a deep sense of connection. Our relationships become more authentic when we are truly present with the people in our lives. How often do we find ourselves distracted, thinking about what needs to be done, while someone is speaking to us? When we give our full attention to others, when we listen without distraction, we create a space where true connection can thrive. A woman with no money may not have material wealth, but she may have the ability to listen, to offer compassion, and to be present with others in a way that is far more meaningful than any possession. Living in the present moment also brings clarity and freedom. We are often weighed down by the expectations of others, the demands of society, or our own internal pressure to perform. But in the now, we find freedom from these external forces. We are free to be ourselves, to engage with life as it is, without the burden of striving. In the present moment, we are not bound by the past or the future. We are simply here, alive, and able to experience the fullness of life as it unfolds. The beauty of the present moment is that it is always available, no matter where we are, what we are doing, or what challenges we face. The present moment is always waiting for us to step into it. We do not have to wait for the perfect circumstances or the right time. The time is always now. When we choose to live in the present, we discover that life becomes more vibrant, more meaningful, and more alive. The future will come in its own time, but for now, all we have is this moment. And in this moment, we can find everything we need. Letting go is often seen as a difficult and painful process, a surrender that we are conditioned to avoid. We are taught to hold on to our possessions, our ambitions, our identities, and even our fears. Holding on gives us a sense of control, a semblance of security in a world that often feels unpredictable and chaotic. Yet, in clinging tightly to what we think we need, we become burdened, weighed down by attachments that restrict our ability to move freely and fully through life. True freedom, paradoxically, comes not from holding on, but from letting go. When we hold on to things, whether they are physical possessions, relationships, or past memories, we create mental and emotional barriers that limit our growth. These attachments often define us, giving us a false sense of stability and identity. We identify ourselves with the roles we play, the things we own, and the stories we tell about our past. This attachment becomes a cage, one that keeps us trapped in an image of who we think we are, rather than who we can become. The more we grasp onto these external markers of identity, the more we bind ourselves to a version of life that is fixed and limited. Letting go frees us from these constraints, offering us the possibility of transformation and renewal. The act of letting go is not about renouncing all attachment or abandoning what we value. It is about releasing the tight grip we have on the things, people, and outcomes that we mistakenly believe define us. It is about acknowledging that life is constantly changing, and that holding on to the past only prevents us from embracing the present and future. When we let go, we make space for new experiences, new relationships, and new ways of being. In this space, we find freedom. Letting go also means releasing the stories we tell ourselves about who we are or what we can do. We all have narratives that we carry with us, stories shaped by our upbringing, our experiences, and our cultural conditioning. These stories often tell us who we should be, what we should want, and what we are capable of achieving. They create limitations and reinforce fears that keep us stuck in old patterns. Letting go of these stories allows us to step outside the boundaries they impose. It invites us to rewrite our narrative, to let go of what no longer serves us, and to move forward with the knowledge that we are not defined by our past. In relationships, letting go can be especially challenging. We become attached to people, often believing that our happiness is dependent on them. We hold on tightly to others out of love, fear, or desire for validation. Yet, when we cling too tightly, we suffocate the relationship, creating an unhealthy dynamic where both people feel trapped. Letting go in relationships does not mean abandoning love or care. It means allowing the other person the freedom to be themselves, without the need for control or expectation. It means recognizing that true love is not about possession or dependency, but about mutual respect, trust, and the freedom to grow both individually and together. Letting go also brings freedom from the weight of regret and fear. We often hold on to past mistakes, missed opportunities, and the what-ifs of life. These regrets create emotional baggage that prevents us from fully engaging with the present. Similarly, we hold on to fears about the future, worrying about what could go wrong, about failure, or about not being good enough. These anxieties tie us to a future that has not yet arrived, keeping us from living freely in the now. When we let go of the need to control outcomes or dwell on the past, we release the hold that regret and fear have on us. We become more open to possibility, more willing to embrace the unknown. The freedom of letting go is also a form of self-compassion. It is the recognition that we are worthy of peace and ease, that we do not need to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. Letting go means choosing to release unnecessary burdens, whether they are emotional, mental, or physical. It is an act of self-care, an acknowledgement that we do not need to prove our worth through struggle or attachment. It allows us to breathe deeply, to move lightly, and to experience life with a sense of ease and openness. Ultimately, letting go is about accepting the impermanence of life. Everything, our relationships, our possessions, our achievements, are fleeting. Clinging to them only creates suffering. When we let go, we align ourselves with the natural flow of life. We accept that change is inevitable, and that holding on to what is temporary only causes us pain. By embracing impermanence, we free ourselves from the fear of loss and the anxiety of what might come. Letting go, in this sense, is a profound act of trust in life itself. The freedom of letting go is not the absence of attachment, but the freedom to engage with life without fear, without the burden of the past, and without the need for control. It is the ability to move through life with an open heart, a clear mind, and the knowledge that we are not defined by what we own, who we know, or what we have done. True freedom comes when we release our attachment to all of these things and embrace the ever-changing, ever-flowing nature of life. In letting go, we discover that we are more than enough, that we are already whole, and that freedom is always available to us, here and now. The concept of value is one that we often take for granted, equating it with money, wealth, or the tangible worth of objects in the material world. We live in a society that constantly reinforces the idea that value is something that can be measured in terms of quantity, whether that be the size of a paycheck, the price of a commodity, or the status one attains. Yet when we pause to reflect on what value truly means, we may come to realize that its true essence goes far beyond what is visible, tangible, or measurable. The meaning of value is not limited to the material or the economic. It encompasses the intangible, the spiritual, and the deeply personal aspects of life. Value is often perceived through a lens of scarcity and utility. We are taught to value things that are rare or in high-demand objects or achievements that promise to bring comfort, status, or security. In this context, value becomes something that is determined by external factors, the supply and demand of goods, the competitive achievements of individuals, or the accumulation of wealth. Yet, in focusing only on these external measures of value, we lose sight of what truly gives our lives meaning. The worth of a person, a relationship, or an experience cannot be quantified in monetary terms. True value is found in the depth, richness, and quality of our experiences and relationships, not in the things we accumulate or the external validation we seek. At the heart of understanding the true meaning of value is the recognition that value is subjective. What is valuable to one person may hold no meaning for another. We all place different importance on different aspects of life, based on our unique experiences, needs, and desires. For some, wealth and material possessions may hold significant value because they provide a sense of security, comfort, or social status. For others, value may lie in personal growth, spiritual connection, or the relationships they build. The woman with no money may be viewed by some as lacking in value, based solely on the amount of material wealth she has. Yet to others, her value may lie in her kindness, her wisdom, or the way she enriches the lives of those around her. Value, in this sense, is not something that can be universally defined, but something that is deeply personal and fluid, constantly shifting depending on the perspective through which it is viewed. The meaning of value also extends to how we view time and experience. We often measure value in terms of what we gain or acquire, but we fail to recognize that the most valuable moments of our lives are often those that are intangible. The love of a parent, the warmth of friendship, the joy of being in nature, the quiet moments of introspection, these experiences cannot be bought or sold, yet they are among the most profound and meaningful in our lives. True value is not just about what we accumulate, but about how we engage with the world, how deeply we connect with others, and how we appreciate the fleeting moments of beauty that surround us. In addition to being subjective, value is also relational. It emerges from the connections we form with others and with the world around us. Our worth is often defined by how we make others feel, the impact we have on our communities, and the way we contribute to the collective well-being of society. The value of a person is not just in what they have, but in how they make others feel, the kindness they offer, and the love they share. A woman with no money may not have the material wealth that many chase after, but her value may be measured in the way she listens, the compassion she offers, and the kindness she shows to everyone she meets. Value, in this sense, is not an isolated concept. It is interwoven with our relationships and our ability to connect, share, and support one another. The meaning of value is also deeply connected to our sense of purpose. We tend to value things that align with our personal sense of meaning, those things that resonate with our deepest beliefs and aspirations. The value of a career, a hobby, or a pursuit is often determined by how closely it aligns with our passions, our sense of mission, or our desire to make a difference in the world. When we engage in activities or relationships that feel meaningful to us, we experience a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction that cannot be replicated by material wealth. A life lived in alignment with one's values, whether those values are based on creativity, service, love, or exploration, is a life that feels rich with meaning and value, regardless of how much wealth one possesses. True value, therefore, is not determined by external measures or societal norms. It is an internal, deeply personal experience that can only be fully realized when we embrace the intangible aspects of life, our relationships, our growth, our contributions, and our experiences. It is a reminder that the most precious things in life cannot be bought or sold. The woman with no money, in this sense, may be wealthier than many who possess vast material resources. Her value lies not in her bank account, but in the love she gives, the wisdom she shares, and the deep connection she fosters. Value, ultimately, is not something that can be measured by what we possess, but by how we live and how we contribute to the world around us.